and how that can influence the things the choices that we make in our own individual homes. And so the first person I just met recently, and I'm really excited to have her here, Lucy Brennan. I don't know if you know that the city of South Portland is one of the few towns in the state that have a sustainability coordinator. So what that means is the city has hired somebody whose job it is to make sure that we are doing things that are helping our environment. And so Lucy here has been working for, how long now, Lucy? For a year and a half, and she works with somebody named Julie over there. So she's gonna talk a little bit about what she does, and then after that, we're gonna hear from a couple other guests that I'll introduce. But let's first have a round of applause for Lucy.
Great that you have this week and that you've dedicated this time to have us here, so we're excited to talk with you all today. That was a good introductory background. Our office has been established for about 4 years now, and as she mentioned, we're lucky in South Portland to have this office. We're one of the few towns and cities in the state to have a sustainability office, one of about 4 or 5. So this is a really unique position to be in, and hopefully we can make the best of it all together. So I'm just going to take the time to go through give you an overview of some of the projects that we're doing in our office, how you can get involved, and hopefully give you greater insight into the place you live and the city and the office and the work that we're doing. So let's just get started here. This is a quick overview of the mission of our office. What we're doing is we're guiding the development of policies and practices that simultaneously promote economic well-being, strong community connections, and a healthy environment. And I think what's really key about this is that we're not just thinking about the environment as a silo. We're also connecting it with the local economy and the community, and that's allowing our programs to be stronger and more sustainable looking forward. In that work, what we're doing is we're focusing on about 5 key areas, and you might have heard of these, and the other presenters will touch on them too as we get into the hour. Energy and climate, waste reduction, healthy environment, sustainable transportation, and community engagement. And we'll go into what each of these means in example projects over the next few minutes, but just keep that in your umbrella as we're working ahead here. So in 2017, the City of South Portland signed the Mayor's Climate Agenda, which is really the city saying we're still in. We are taking this very seriously, and we know that things are changing at the state and national level, but as a city, we're committed to the Paris Climate Agreement. And in doing so, we actually agreed to take 3 key steps, and what they were are first to develop a greenhouse gas inventory for the city, which we've done. The second is to set near and long-term reduction goals, which I'll get into in one more second, and develop a climate action plan. So you can see that we've really put forward an ambitious vision for our city and put the stake in the ground and said, we're still in, count us in, what can we do to help reach these goals? So in energy and climate, the goals that the city has set, and this is also done in partnership with Portland, so we're looking regionally and really trying to work together to use 100% clean renewable energy for municipal operations by 2040 and reduce community greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050, which you might have heard before because that's the Paris Climate Agreement. And in doing so, plan for resiliency and adaptation. And what's key here is that you might have heard the terms mitigation and adaptation. Are you familiar with those at all? Have you heard about them in class? Maybe? So mitigation is reducing our emissions. Adaptation is how we're changing to adapt to the changing climate. So we're thinking about both mitigation and adaptation in this work. So what are we doing here in this area? This is a really exciting one, and we're looking forward to sharing it widely with the city. We've just started a climate action plan process for Portland and South Portland, which we're calling One Climate Future. So you might have heard about this maybe in the Century, on the community newsletter, on the Facebook page. This is the name of our climate action plan, which will be developed over the next about 18 months in partnership with Portland. And what's notable about this is nationwide, this is the first time 2 cities have come together to develop a climate action plan. So we're really charting a new course and setting a new frontier for how we're going to do this. There are 4 key focus areas which are represented by the different icons for this plan. The first is high performance buildings, and we chose to focus on this because Maine has one of the oldest housing stocks in the country. So houses are colder, they're not as well constructed, and they're also reliant on fuel use to heat the home. So what can we do to change that and reduce our energy use? Second is land use and transportation, which is represented, that's supposed to be sort of like the Casco Bay Bridge that you might drive across to Portland. So rethinking and reimagining how we network and connect our systems, and thinking about all forms of transportation. So not just personal vehicle use, but also public transportation, walking and biking around the city. We're also thinking about waste reduction, which Katrina will touch on a little bit later, and also climate resiliency and adaptation. So those are the four main focus areas. What I would say as youth and really an important voice as we think about how do we reach these goals in 50 years, you are the ones that are going to be living here and living in Maine in 50 years. So we really need your ideas and your vision for what this will look like. As we put a plan together, we're going to identify near-term actions and long-term actions. So actions in 2030, actions in 2040, and actions in 2050. And the youth is really where who's going to be living here and who's going to be carrying out these actions. So if you have ideas, if you have thoughts, if you have something you want to see in the city in a couple of years, let us know. We really value your opinion and think that you'll be important as we develop this plan. So the next goal and the next focus area for the city is waste reduction. South Portland has a goal to increase our recycling rate to 40% by 2020 through a couple different ways: purposeful purchasing, reuse, recycling, and composting. I think right now we're around 28% for recycling, so we've got some work to do in the coming years, so we need everyone to pitch in. So what I'll do, I'm going to focus on one program here in the city that you might have heard of. Does anybody collect food waste at home, either composting or maybe through the city? Some of you? Okay, great. So there's opportunity to expand. So you may have lived either in the pilot area. We did a pilot program about a year ago to assess the viability of rolling out a citywide food waste program. And the response to that pilot program was fabulous. About 60% of the residents in this area set out their bin at least once, and we reduced the recycling rate in that certain area by 10% to actually get us up to, I think it was about 40 for that particular neighborhood. So what we did was we rolled it out citywide because it was so successful. So now there are a couple ways that you can participate. So anyone who lives in South Portland can join the program. What you have to do is just call the city, and you can get either a 12-gallon rolling bin, which is sort of what you can see on the postcard in the back there, or a countertop bin to collect food waste at your home. And will you go into what the food waste is? Okay, great. So Katrina will tell you all about that. Once you collect your food waste, you can either take it to 4 disposal locations in the city: City Hall, the transfer station, the golf course maintenance building, which is on Westbrook Ave, or the Bed Bank Resource Hub. So all over the city, and drop off your food waste at any time. This is a fabulous way to get involved. You can do it on your own at no cost. You can get the bin from us and just take it to a disposal site. This will be a really important way for us to increase our recycling rate. From there, it goes to an anaerobic digester in Exeter, Maine, where it's used to make renewable electricity, and the byproduct actually goes on the farm as animal bedding and field fertilizer. So it's a really great closed-loop system. Pretty much you can chuck it in the bucket. It's a really fabulous option. Let us know if you're interested. We're really trying to expand to more homes, and it's available to everybody. So keep that in mind. The next focus area is the healthy environment. So making South Portland a healthy community for all by reducing the use of pesticides and promoting a transition to organic land care practices. So the program we're focusing on here is Grow Healthy South Portland. You may have received a postcard that looked like this last May. This was prior to rolling out our new ordinance, which is a pesticide ordinance. So it's saying that you cannot use synthetic pesticides on your land. This is private land, public land, fields, golf courses. We're all committing to this new way of land care that's organic and really holistic. So this is another thing that's unique to South Portland. Portland just rolled out something as well, but it's really looking forward and being forward-thinking about how we're maintaining our environment, what it means for our families, for our kids, for our parents, and for our playing fields. Sustainable transportation. Reduce the environmental impact of vehicles in South Portland and create a welcoming and safe environment for all. Transportation options. As I said before, it's not just personal vehicles, but also public transportation, walking, and biking. Has anybody seen any of these South Portland electric vehicles around the city before? They have a little logo on the side. Yeah. Great. So we've rolled these out. I think we have about 4 or 5 now around the city. They're used by different city departments. They run all on electricity. So this is a charging station on the right. They have a charging station at the community center, so right nearby here, also at City Hall and the Municipal Services Facility. So we're really trying to transition our fleet to all electric where it's possible, and now there are many more cars on the market to make it. So that's another thing in the works for the city. And finally, community engagement, developing collaborative partnerships that build support for community initiatives and increase awareness about sustainable programs, policies, and practices. So we've done that by tabling at Hannaford. Katrina's maybe come into your classroom before, but what it really comes down to is that we want to hear from you. As I said before, we're developing these really visionary, ambitious, and achievable plans for the city, but it really doesn't hold truth and have some, grounding local impact if we don't hear from people that might live here in 40 or 50 years. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear your ideas and your voices. As we roll out this plan, what we'll be doing is sending out a survey. We want as many people to take the survey as possible, from kids to adults to elderly. So if you see it, give us your 2 cents. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll also hopefully engage you as we continue to develop this plan and roll out these efforts citywide. So that's sort of what I have for what the city's doing. We have more outside of all those different programs, which I think both the other presenters will touch on today. But does anybody have any questions about what our office is doing in particular before I pass it on? Should we take questions?
Yeah, we can take questions after, but think about, how many of you guys are composting at home? Is anybody composting at home right now? Several of you guys. So if you're interested in composting at home, we were thinking of partnering with the office and providing some buckets here at the high school. That way you could bring them home to your family, and then you can learn about kind of where the drop-off places are. So after break, maybe before the end of school, we'll kind of partner with Lucy and see if that's something that we could do, and have the buckets here available so that you can just take them home and you bring them home to your family. All right, so let's have a round of applause for Lucy, and then our next guest is Katrina. We have her coming from Maine. She's a wealth of knowledge about recycling, composting, and all things waste reduction. So keep in mind that there are these little pieces of paper in front of you, so if you have a question you don't want to answer or ask live, you can put the question, or we have a little spot over there too if you want to do that, okay? So thank you.
Hey everyone. Can everyone hear me without the microphone? Yes. Fantastic, I hate microphones. My name is Katrina. I work for the company called Maine. We take your trash and your recycling. So no matter if you put something in the trash bin at home, at school, you go to the grocery store, you go to the movies, anywhere you go in South Portland and a lot of towns surrounding South Portland, your stuff will come to us no matter what. We're right out by the airport, so we're not very far away from you at all. And we're going to talk a lot about your trash and your recycling and what it all means, so that we don't end up with this lovely kind of background picture of trash everywhere. So we follow the waste hierarchy. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, kind of demands that we follow the waste hierarchy, and that is reduce, reuse, recycle, which I'm sure you've heard for decades, or probably a decade and a half by now. And then it's also about composting, and then what we call waste to energy and landfilling. So reducing and reusing and recycling and composting are all ways to help you make as little trash as possible. That potentially new concept there, waste to energy, is trash to electricity, waste to energy. We take your trash and we burn it and we turn it into ash. We also turn it into electricity. So as we're burning it, it's going to a large product to a small product, and then we put it in a landfill located 3 miles away from our facility, so not very far away at all, in a landfill lined with lots of plastic, lots of clay, lots of gravel, lots of sand, so in a very safe environment. We're of course making electricity off of that, so it is renewable power, and then we put that ash in a landfill. So you see the small triangle down at the bottom where it says landfill? We literally want to make as little trash as possible. Our landfill is not going to close until at least 2044, in which case you will be about 25 years older. But we still want to make as little trash as possible, because if we fill that up really fast, we're going to have to go find another landfill. And if we fill that up one fast, we're going to have to go find another space. And it's incredibly expensive. It's actually millions upon millions of dollars to both open and close a landfill. So that's, of course, your tax dollars now and in the future. So reducing, reusing, recycling, and composting, one, is a way for us all to save money, and two, a way to help the environment and make sure it stays cleaner for the future. So recycling, It might seem like a hippie kind of concept that why should I really care about this? But let's look at these two scenarios here. The top one, we need paper, so we go out to the trees. We cut them down, we put them on the truck. We make the paper. Those are those rolls in the middle there. We call them reams of paper. Those reams of paper could be made into a coloring book, a letter for you to write to your grandmother, your new favorite book from the library. Anything made out of paper we make, from trees. Then you're going to use that paper in whatever way you'd like, and then in this scenario, we're going to put it in the trash can. The trash truck comes to pick it up, brings it to the landfill, stuck there forever and ever. But now I need more paper, so where do I have to go? Back to the trees, cut them down, make the paper, use it in whatever way you want, throw it away, put it on a truck, bring it to the landfill, done. Where do we need to go for more paper? Back to the trees. It's the exact same way for plastic. Where do we find plastic? How do we make plastic? Where do we get the product to make the plastic? Petroleum, very good. Underground, very expensive, very environmentally damaging to get. So if we put our plastic in the trash can, same exact idea. We have to go back to the oil well. And then if we use it, we go back to the oil well. And if we put it in the trash, we go back to the oil well. So let's look at the second scenario. Trees, making the paper. Put it on a truck, make it, use it in whatever way you like. Put it on the truck, make new paper, recycle it. Recycle it, make new paper. Recycle it, make new paper. Recycle it, make new paper. Are you constantly going back to the trees in this scenario? No, we've already got what we need. We just have to put it in the recycling bin. Sounds really easy, right? Well, South Portland is having a hard time with your recycling. You're putting a lot of junk in the recycling bin. You're putting shoes, diapers, dog poo, chainsaws, bowling balls, tarps, tennis rackets, gum, you name it, we're getting it. So I've got some mandatory homework for you tonight. You just need to take this home. Okay, that's all I'm asking you to do. Take this home, share it with your family, because when you recycle wrong, when you put that red stuff into the recycling bin, this is hurting your tax dollars, your family's tax dollars. It's also hurting the environment because we're not able to properly recycle everything you give us. So give us the good stuff on the green side and everybody's happy. Literally, it all works really, really well. So that's your only homework from me tonight. So how does it work? Well, you put it out on the curb. The trash truck comes to pick it up. Shush. So the trash truck picks it up. He's got an arm that he kind of controls with a video game controller. And he picks it up with an arm, and then he puts it down, and he picks up another one. Has anyone ever seen your trash and your recycling go into one truck? Is that confusing? And you're like, why am I wasting all my time sorting out my recycling from the trash? They've got a system inside that truck. It's called a dual-sided truck. If you looked at the back of the truck, you'd see a line down the middle. So what they do is they flip it this way, recycling goes in. They flip it this way, they pick up trash and it goes in this way. They pick up more recycling, they flip it this way, recycling goes in. And they flip it this way, trash can go in. So they have two sides, so recycling goes on one, trash goes on the other. When those get full, they drive to us, and then when they back up, they open up the recycling side. Sorry. The recycling side opens up, and then they empty it out, and then our guys take it from there. This is our front loader, and he's shoving it up onto the upper level there. From there, it goes onto a conveyor belt, and then it moves through our system, sorting out all your recycling. So you put your cardboard, your paper, your plastic, your metal, your glass, all in one bin, and then we sort it for you. Do we want your food waste in your recycling bin? Do we want your reusable stuff, like your shoes and your jeans and your things that someone else can use in the recycling bin? No, because we have to throw those away. Even if they're perfectly good shoes that you're like, well, I want to recycle these, we throw them away. So anything you can reuse, give it to a friend, give it to Goodwill, give it to Salvation Army, have a yard sale, leave it on the front curb for, have a free sign on it. Whatever you want to do, go for it. Your food waste goes in the compost bins, not in your recycling bin. So from up on that upper level, it runs through our facility and is sorted in 3 minutes or less. Everything that you recycle gets sorted in 3 minutes or less. And this is just a little picture to say plastic bags are the worst. Please don't give us any. This is a rubber star that sorts out the paper. It is clearly a black color. Right here you see a lot of different colors of the rainbow because we've got a lot of junk stuck in there. I'm actually going to pass this around so you can see it, but still please be focused on what we're talking about. And everything I pass around today I do need back because I have to show literally thousands of more students, so don't steal it, okay? So we have humans that are picking up stuff and they are making sure that they are clean before we start it up again. For some reason, the words down at the bottom got taken out, but you can take your plastic bags, your shopping bags, your produce bags, your bubble wrap, your air pockets, the wrapping around your toilet paper, etc. to Hannaford, Shaw's, Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, etc. On the back of your homework tonight, it says, no plastic bags, no thank you, but underneath, there's plasticfilmrecycling.org. It's a website where you can go and type in your zip code, and you can find all the stores nearby for you to take those bags. So if you recycle those bags at the grocery store, they can make something called plastic decking. Trex is a really cool company, and they make decking for your backyard out of plastic bags and leftover sawdust instead of trees. How cool is that? Right? That's what I thought. So we're also taking out your metal. I did put a couple of videos in here. I didn't have time to show you the whole shebang, but we take out your metal in two different ways. There's two types of magnets because we typically use two different types of metals day to day. We have something called steel or tin cans. They're ferrous, meaning they attract to a magnet. So anything ferrous is being grabbed off that belt, brought over to the side, and thrown in a bin. So it's grabbed and thrown, grabbed and thrown, grabbed and thrown all day long. Anything non-ferrous, we'll see in a second, that's anything like aluminum foil, seltzer cans, anything with aluminum in it. And instead of a regular magnet, we're using a reverse eddy current magnet, or an opposite magnet. So instead of grabbing it, what do you think it does? Pushes it. Great. So it pushes it away. So anything you see flying up and over, like that, and that, and that, and that, and that. So all that is flying up and over because it's being repelled by that opposite magnet or reverse eddy current magnet. So we take out your glass by breaking it. We reuse this instead of recycle it because there's no market, nobody's buying it, nobody wants it to make it into new glass. So we choose to reuse it instead of just shoving it in the landfill and saying, well, I guess nobody wants it. We'll just put it in the landfill forever. So we choose to have people pick it up for free and reuse it in countertop projects, underneath buildings, like the Shaw Brothers construction company picks it up. They do a lot of projects with it, so it's pretty cool. It's reused. We also sort out your plastics by a machine. This is a robot that's reading the chemical makeup of the plastics and other things that go underneath it. And by that, I mean, you sir, can you please hold up that plastic water bottle for me? That is a number 1 plastic. Different from number 2, different from number 3, from number 4, from number 5, from number 6, from number 7. All 7 plastics are different types of plastics with different chemical makeups. This machine is reading, and it's only seeing number 1. So when it sees it, it goes, it blows at it. Now, if you were to put your bottle or other container in the recycling bin with liquid still in it, could it? No, so anything you give us, whether it's a plastic bottle or a strawberry container or a milk jug or literally anything you give us has to be emptied out. You don't have to scrub it. You don't have to clean anything you give us, but it has to be emptied. Agreed? Finally, we recycle things by turning them into squishy bales. Think of a Wall-E, and then we send it off to make new, brand new things, which is very exciting. Because if we were to sort it and then keep it, that would be called hoarding. So we choose to send it away and turn it into new things. They are inspected before they're put on a truck. This is Richard. He's turning it over. He's looking for anything that shouldn't be in there. If he sees anything in there, he pulls it out by hand. If he sees that it is too dirty, it will be picked up and brought around front. What I've left out of the slideshow, only because I didn't have enough time to put pictures in, is that humans pick out the trash, not just in the stars, but they're actually on the belt pulling out trash as it goes by them. So if you put trash in your recycling bin, another person has to pick it out. So please don't put trash in the recycling bin. You've got a card now, or at least you will in the next hour or so. It tells you all the no's. It also tells you all the yeses. So please, it does matter what bin you put it in. So if you give us good stuff, It will go off and make new things. I've got fake homework for you now. Go to Willard Beach, play on the playground. It's a lot of fun. That whole playground was made out of milk jugs, which was made into plastic lumber. It was also made out of soup cans and aluminum cans. So go to the beach and ponder this playground and think about the fact that people in the past recycled so that the children of the present and the future can have a playground to play on. And if you recycle, they can make really cool stuff too, from toys to shirts to bottles to that bicycle down in the bottom is made by a company in Oregon. They're making bicycles out of recycled aluminum and recycled cork and all kinds of cool stuff. Also toilet paper. You probably never thought about it, but maybe think about it next time you buy toilet paper. Do you want to buy toilet paper made from a super fresh tree? Or do you want to have toilet paper from recycled paper, not recycled toilet paper, mind you, recycled paper, so it's actually a lot healthier for the environment and it's still super nice. And whatever you put in the trash can, we burn it. Quite literally, everything you put in the trash can, we burn it. You put $100 in the trash, we're going to burn it. You put all your good recycling in the trash, we burn it. And of course, food is not garbage. Especially here at school, you have the luxury of having a compost bin. Your food, which is anything you can't eat or don't want to eat, from your banana peels to your sandwich that fell on the floor, anything that could have been eaten or was part of something that could have been eaten should go in the compost bin so it can go off and turn into wonderful new soil. This used to be peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and mac and cheese and probably a chicken bone and who knows what else. But if you put compost in the compost bin, they can make soil out of it. If you put compost in the trash can, it gets burned. Thank you, sir. So help us. Help our fire burn really, really well so we can make a lot of electricity. Because what happens if we burn a lot of wet food? Does that fire burn better or worse? Worse. So one, you're wasting the food, and two, you're helping our fire be really, really terrible. So put that food in the compost bin and literally everybody's happy. Get to grow new things. Speaking of food waste drop-offs, Lucy mentioned this. There might be one close by to you. There's one at Town Hall, there's one at the transfer station, there's one at the golf course, there's one over by, what is the Red Bank neighborhood. So there are a lot of them potentially close to you, but you can also have it picked up from your house. If you go and drop it off yourself, it is free. How exciting is that? You're doing a good thing for the earth. It's actually good for your tax dollars too, because it's not costing you a dime, even though trash does. Recycling also free, but only if you do it right. Skipping that one. So you might be like, who am I and why am I here? Why should I care? Well, I'm here to tell you that global warming is a fact. The temperatures are rising, which means the floods are getting worse, the hurricanes are getting worse, the droughts are getting worse, things are getting worse. Fact. One way that we can make this better is by creating less waste. Also saving energy. Jill's going to talk about solar. There's a lot of other ways to save energy, even if it's just turning off the lights when you leave a room. There's little things that we can do every day. So making sure that we're doing the best that we can, and you might think, I'm only one person, what in the world can I do? Well, here's 9 things that you can do in the next 30 seconds or in the next day to really make a huge difference. So, get a reusable water bottle or coffee mug or whatever you want and actually use it. I put stickers on it and it makes me really happy every time I use it. So get one that you love. Shop locally at farmers markets to avoid your food being trucked thousands of miles, because everything you buy, chances are, not all that local. Even the bananas, even like the daffodils that I bought at Trader Joe's the other day, I found out they were from England. That is the last time I will ever buy daffodils at Trader Joe's. Why would I buy daffodils from England when they grow right here just fine? Bring your own bags or backpacks to the grocery store. Buy smart. Purchase recycled paper instead of a journal made out of fresh paper. If it doesn't say it's made from recycled paper, it's made from fresh trees. Why not go recycled? Seek out secondhand clothes and shoes, etc. Try recycled toilet paper. It's pretty great. Get a big bag of snacks or a big box of snacks and pack them in reusable containers instead of having these dinky little plastic bags that you have to throw away if you like the Cheez-Its and stuff. One, you'll probably be able to put more in that plastic container, and two, you can reuse it, and you're not throwing away all that plastic because that plastic is not recyclable, trash only. Obviously, don't waste your water, your electricity. Don't idle your car. And bike, bus, and carpool whenever possible. Lucy and I carpooled today. It was a blast. Unsubscribe from your junk mail and your magazines that you don't read. Why use that paper if you don't need it? Recycle it, obviously, if you do get it. Plant bee-friendly and bird-friendly plants when you're outside. Maybe wait until it stops snowing. And then go meatless once a week or a few times a week because it's helpful for the environment. Methane is created from meat. I eat meat, but I try and not eat it as much as I used to because it's helpful. And then obviously put your trash in the right place. When we all do it right, money is saved, tax dollars are saved, the environment is saved, everybody's happy. When we do it wrong, we're wasting money, we're hurting the environment, we're hurting the resources that could have been used. So, in summation, take your trash, take out anything reusable, give it away. Take out anything recyclable and recycle it. Take out any food and put it in a compost bin, whether a drop-off location or here at school. You'll have a healthier environment. You'll reduce the natural resources that are consumed to make new products. Think of the trees, think of the petroleum. And then you'll also have less money spent for disposal. Instead, you could spend it on, I don't know, shoes or food or a park or something else that's really helpful instead of trash. Find us on all the social media stuff. We're super fun. I'll answer questions later. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Speaking of which, I think I told you this, but we do have a recycle and compost bucket over there if you guys did bring some food in. We are selling metal straws during lunches if you are interested in that. Yeah.
Could I have one?
Yes.
It's like, if you guys are against climate change, you guys don't like to change, why burn a lot of trash? Is that just reducing CO2 emissions?
So, what's your question?
Why burn all the trash?
Why burn the trash?
Does that create CO2?
His question is, why do you end up burning some trash at Maine?
That's a great question. So we choose to burn it, because otherwise it would go into the landfill whole. So we're putting this much trash in the landfill, which fills up 10 times faster. We're putting this much trash in the landfill, which fills up 10 times slower. Along the way, we are making electricity. So we can power our entire trash building, our entire recycling building, our electric car, we drive programs a lot, and up to 15,000 homes on top of that. So we are mitigating the pollution. I didn't have time to talk about it today, but every amount of pollution that we create is then destroyed inside the building. What's coming out of our stack is 96% water vapor, so that, and a little bit of pollution, but we are allowed, we have permits to pollute a lot more than we actually do. So for example, last year we could have emitted 25 pounds of mercury, but we only emitted 5. So we're doing way less than we're allowed to do. It's pretty cool.
I think also, I know my ecology class that I teach, we talk a lot about packaging and the things that we buy, because not everything can be recycled. Recycling is like a market, so there's only certain plastics that can be recycled. If like the markers we use, the teachers use the dry erase markers, those can't be recycled at a place like Maine because they have more than one component. So a lot of it is about kind of maybe holding the manufacturers responsible for what they make, because not everything can be recycled. We have a ton of e-waste here in the school building, and we've been collecting that too. So does that kind of answer your question? Maine is only recycling certain types of things, and other than that, it needs to either go to other places, like an e-waste place or a TerraCycle type of place, but not everything can be recycled. So, did we answer your question? Okay. Did we answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Okay, so next we have Jill here is from Revision Energy, and she's going to talk to us about what her organization does, and then after that we'll see if there's any questions, okay?
Hey guys, so I'm Jill, I'm with Revision Energy. I am just going to talk a little bit about Revision Energy, what we do, and what we've done specifically in South Portland. So Vision Energy is an employee-owned solar company. I'm based right here in Portland. We also have a branch up in Liberty, Maine, and one in New Hampshire and one in Massachusetts. So our mission as a company is to transition away from fossil fuels and onto clean, renewable energy. We want to get all of Northern New England onto clean energy. So we started in 2003, and since then we've done over 7,000 solar installations in Maine, New Hampshire, and Mass. So you can see on the right, that's what happens when you burn fossil fuels. So coal, oil, natural gas, you get a lot of pollution. It really leads to global warming. It's really dangerous to get out of the ground. On the left, you have solar panels. So it's a totally renewable form of energy because the sun is always there. It comes up every single day. There are 0 carbon dioxide emissions. You put the panels up and then you leave them. They last for 40 years. So there's no drilling for oil. There's no worry about oil spills. There's no mountaintop removal. You just put them there. They blend into their environment, and they produce energy for 40 years. So the way that it works, the sun hits the solar panels, creates DC electricity, then it runs into your house, and we put an inverter in there that switches it to AC electricity, which your house uses for lights, computers, refrigerator, phone chargers, anything like that. And then anything, so it's using all that, is powering your home in real time. And then anything else that you produce beyond that gets sent out to the grid. So all of the power lines running up and down the street, that's the grid. And so then the utility company will credit you for anything extra that you produce, because then your neighbors get to use it, basically. So a lot of people think that there isn't much sun in Maine, which is fair on a day like today when it's snowing in April, but we do actually get a lot of sun. We're on the same line of latitude as the French Riviera, which is in the Mediterranean. And we actually get 30% more sun than Germany does, because we're farther south than Germany, and Germany is one of the world's leading installers of solar energy. They've actually had days where the whole country is powered with renewable energy. So that's really cool, and we get 30% more sun than they do. So we should have no problem in Maine being able to power things with solar energy. And the coolest thing is that the solar panels themselves are actually more effective in colder temperatures. So like, today when it's like 30, 40, it's actually, they're way more efficient in this kind of temperature than they are in like Arizona where it's 110 degrees. So what we do at Revision is, if you're interested in solar for your house or your business or your school or whatever, we take a look at your house on Google Maps first, because obviously, so you can see the house kind of in the middle there, their roof is totally blocked by those 2 really beautiful trees. So that's cool, but that roof probably won't work for solar because the trees are blocking their roof. But the one to the left gets great sunlight. So we look at your house in Google Maps, and then one of our designers will actually come out to your house, climb up onto your roof, and take some measurements. The piece of equipment on the left there is called a sun eye, and they take a photo, which is the picture on the right, from your roof. And that tells you how much sun your roof gets over the course of the whole year. So you can see that the green shading, those are the trees for this person's house. So that's blocking the sun, but otherwise there's a lot of yellow in that photo, so that's a pretty good roof for solar. And then at the bottom is your electric bill. So people pay a lot of money for electricity every month. And the way we size the system is we're trying to offset that so you don't have to pay that to the electric company every single month. So we look at that, and then we tell you how many panels you would need for your home, how many you could fit on your roof, and we give you all of that information. So that whole process is done by one of our solar design specialists. So that's like one possible job in the solar industry. I do, obviously, this kind of education, outreach type. And then we have the installers who are awesome. So they're the ones that are actually installing the panels on your roof. So once you say, yes, I want solar, I want those panels on my house, our team of installers comes out, puts a racking system on the roof, and then puts the panels on top of that. So this is also a really cool job. I don't do it because I am terrified of heights, and they have to actually climb up on the roof. So you can see he's strapped in, he's got a harness on. There's a lot of safety measures you have to take because you're so high up. So here we are installing a slightly different roof. So this is up in Harpswell. This is just an example of just a house that we've done. You can see for this one, we mostly covered their whole roof. We do a lot of barns. So you can see this one, we didn't need to cover their whole roof. So maybe, so this family, maybe there's like 4 people living there. They use TV a lot. They're using a lot of electricity, so they need to be creating more on their roof. This family, maybe they're just a little bit more conservative, or there's only 2 people there, and they don't need as much electricity. This is another nice one in Wakefield. I just like that photo because it's right on the lake. So then we also do, so those are kind of like residential, and then we also do local businesses, schools, municipalities. So Boys and Girls Club, the one in Portland, in South Portland, they have it. So you can see this is a flat roof, so we had to prop it up because you want the sun to be hitting it at just the right angle. And also for when there's snow, you want the snow to slide off of it, so if it's totally flat, that wouldn't happen. Coffee by Design is just another example of a business that we've done. And then we also do ground mounts. So if the roof doesn't work, or maybe the roof isn't big enough, or it's like that picture I showed earlier and there's a lot of trees, we do a ground mount. And so this is really relevant to South Portland because we did a huge ground mount array on the landfill right down the street. So that installed that in October of 2017, so like a year and a half ago. And that's actually 2,944 solar panels. So that's really huge. That's powering the municipal needs for the city. So the city buildings, the schools, things like that. It is 1.2 million kilowatt hours, which is a really crazy number. So anyway, yeah, so for that kind of thing, obviously like a roof wouldn't work. So that's why we did it on the capped landfill, because that was just an open amount of land that couldn't be used for really anything else. So that's, and then we also did that at the Portland landfill. We just did that this past year. So that's a cool thing that a lot of cities around here are doing. South Portland was one of the first ones, but so since South Portland we did Portland, Elliott, Shabig, we're doing Cumberland, so kind of a lot of other cities are following South Portland's lead on that. This is up in Brunswick, Crystal Spring Farm. You can see this is a photo of it actually under construction, so they've done about half of it. You can see they have to still fill up that mounted racking system. Maine Audubon up in Falmouth. I don't know if any of you guys have been there, but when you drive in, you see these 3 huge trackers. So they're called trackers because they actually follow the sun. They move east to west with the sun. So they track the sun across the sky, which is really cool. So they basically are getting the most possible sun every single day. And then they will also, when it's really windy, they will lie flat. So those are really neat. And if you go there, you can actually like stand under them and hear it turning. It turns, or it like moves about every 6 minutes. So those are also really cool. We also do, at Revision as a company, we do all sorts of technology that goes along with solar. So like I said before, our mission is to get people away from fossil fuels. So for heating, we do heating via air source heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. So that's trying to get you away from oil and propane to heat your house that's running on electricity. We also do electric vehicle charging stations, which I know Lucy touched on earlier, but the idea here is that if you are driving a totally electric car, you're not using any gas, and if you're able to charge that with your solar electricity, then you don't have to pay for the electricity that you're using, and you won't have to pay for gas because you're not putting any gas in, so you're saving a lot of money and you're reducing your fossil fuel usage. So those are really cool. This is our guy down there. We have a Nissan Leaf, so you've maybe seen that around town. But yeah, so the chargers, as a company, we don't sell the cars, but we do install the charging stations. So a bunch of the Hannaford's have them, LL Bean just installed a ton. The Kennebunk rest stop when you're driving down 95 has them. So and then Lucy mentioned ones, obviously, that are in South Portland. So that's just another good way to kind of transition away from fossil fuels. The idea being that if you are running everything on electricity and creating your own electricity, you're saving money and also saving the world. That's one of the ones in Hanover's. So that is all I have for this slideshow. I did want to just mention a couple other places in South Portland that have solar that we've done. Bangor Savings Bank, Scratch Baking Company, both have them. If you just drive around, once you start to notice them, once you know what they look like, you start to see them everywhere. So just kind of be aware, and you can try to see where they are all over South Portland and the whole Maine area. So thanks.
All right, so we have a question way in the back. Yeah. How much electricity does each solar panel generate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So currently, we are installing 320 watt panels. So each one will make 320 watts of electricity. So that's kind of how we size it. So pretty much the smallest array that we'll do is like 6 panels. Yes?
What could be powered by 320 watts and for how long?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, so pretty much, in order to power a whole home, you're going to need basically a minimum like 8 to 10 panels. A lot of people will do maybe one panel for like their sailboat or their RV or smaller things like that. We don't do that. We do whole array systems. So yeah, it's a little hard to answer just like one panel, but pretty much typical homes are anywhere from like 10 to 30 panels, depending on the size of your house. Yes?
How much is like a set of switch?
In terms of cost? Or?
Yeah, in terms of cost.
Yeah. So the installation, so because we do full installation where you're doing it's the whole process that you're paying for it, and it can be anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 up front. So it's definitely a good cost up front, but remember that the panels last for 40 years. So you're getting 40 years of electricity from your roof, and you're not paying the utility company. So the idea is that by putting it on, you're making your own electricity, you're not paying the utility, and so you're saving money in the long run. Yes?
How long would it take before you started saving money?
Yeah, so in Maine right now, the payback period is like 8 to 10 years. So it takes about 10 years to sort of get your return on investment, and then you have 30 years of free electricity. There are some like incentives right now. There's a federal tax credit that you get, so it's 30% of that total cost you get back as a tax credit, so that's a pretty good chunk, things like that. Yes.
How efficient is solar panels really? You heat your house with like air with gas. What kind of long winters?
Yeah, that's totally. So the ones that we do, I didn't have any photos of, but we do the air source heat pumps because it is all electric. So the way those work is that it pulls air in from the outside, pumps it over a refrigerant coil, then shoots it out hot, and they actually also air condition, so heating and cooling. And those work down to -17, so they'll work. They work in really cold temperatures. So that's kind of that's what we think is sort of the way that we should go, is towards the air source heating instead of getting oil and propane. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
But if you said like if you stop working like -17, like what if it's really cold that you don't get any power in your house?
So that's the heat pumps. The solar panels will work. They keep working. But the heat pumps, yeah, they stop at -17, so we do recommend a second source of heat, even if it's like a wood stove or a space heater or something else, because obviously sometimes here it does get below -17, but for the most part you're going to be okay. But yeah, the solar panels themselves, those will keep working. They do, if the grid goes down, so if you lose power, they do stop working, and that's actually a safety measure so that the people that are working, the line workers working on the power lines, it doesn't backfeed into that and hurt them. So they do stop working when you lose power, but when the power comes back on, you can keep using them.
Somebody was asking, what did you all major in college, and how kind of did you end up doing what you do?
Oh yeah, sure. Do you want Frankie?
You can start, yeah.
So I was an English major, so not super relevant, but I have always sort of been interested in the environment, so I was actually doing this type of work in New York City for a while in book publishing, which is obviously more related to English major. But then when I moved up here, I really wanted to get involved in this like sustainability world, so I'm kind of using the education outreach thing for revision, which is awesome.
Katrina, do you want to answer that? And also I had a question for you too. Sure.
So I went to college in Wisconsin, grew up in Texas, didn't like being hot, so I wanted to be cold. So I majored in biological aspects of conservation, only because there was not an environmental studies major whenever I went there. So fun fact, if you want to go to college, make sure you study like what the majors are before you go there, because I chose to go there because it was close to my grandparents and it was really beautiful. I didn't really focus so much on what majors they had. So I chose one that was closest to environmental studies that I could get. Worked out pretty well, and I've worked in a lot of different states, moving around in Connecticut and Washington State on a tiny island there. Worked in Maine for the last 9-ish years. And it took me 9 years after I graduated college to find my dream job, which is this. So if you keep working towards what you want to do eventually, you're going to get to it, and you'll get a lot of fun along the way.
Another question somebody had was, has mandatory recycling paid by the bag, I think, ever been tried here? I thought it was
In South Portland?
Yeah, maybe Lucy can answer. I'm not sure who that was.
We don't think it will, just because people are so used to not paying for recycling or trash. The challenge is in Portland, if you have to pay for a bag for your trash, but you don't have to pay to put things in recycling. Of course, you're going to be more thoughtful about how good you are at recycling. You won't put everything in the trash. We have to figure that out because there's not a financial incentive to recycle or not to recycle. We just have to have another reason that we want to care for how precise we are in sorting out our materials. So we really do it first because, everyone has their different reasons. Maybe it's for the financial incentive and the cost to the city. Maybe it's because you really care about the environmental impact of our waste or something else. But I don't think at this point it's going to be something that the city will move towards at some point, we're thinking about regional collection and how we do this across towns and cities. So that, we may have to change things a little bit, but right now, it's not going to work here. It does work in other towns because it's already been implemented, but not here in South Portland.
And what about where did you go to college?
I went to college in Maine. I went to Bates College and studied environmental studies there. And my boss, who I work for in the city, was actually worked at Bates at the time, and she was the sort of head of the eco reps and was the sustainability director at Bates College as well. So you can do this job in a lot of different capacities and different locations, whether it's on a campus if you're interested there, or at a city or town level. And that's how I got connected to this position as well. But similar to Katrina, it takes time to sort of figure out where you want to go and what you want to be, and be okay with that patience and self-reflection of, for what makes you tick and really what motivates you and feels meaningful and purposeful.
All right, Mr. Gross, the question, yes.
Yeah, I have a question. So I know that a lot of the recycling from the United States goes to China, correct?
Used to, yes.
Used to, okay, so I know China is really trying to reduce what it accepts. I'm just wondering if that's sort of recent, no?
Yeah, the last year or so.
Right,
So.
has that affected?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a graph, actually, I didn't share it because it wasn't relevant to what exactly we were talking about, but the recycling market has had its ups and downs over the last 10 years, and right now we're right down here, where typically we were right up here. And that's because China did stop taking paper and plastics from much of the world. Maine, my company, was only sending them paper because we have a domestic or United States market for plastics. So that wasn't a problem for us. The problem is 6 out of every 10 bales that we make is paper. So it's not like the problem child over here. It's like the big problem because it's a lot of what we were making. So that is because China stopped taking our paper because of human error. So look at your paper right now. The red side is why China stopped taking the recycling from most of the world. Because people were putting too much of the wrong stuff in. So if we do it right, it is done right. If we do it wrong, it goes really, really poorly. So yes, we are finding other markets for our paper. It is still being recycled. We could just pop it next door and burn it and make electricity off of it, or we're choosing to make sure that we don't cut down those trees. We keep it recycling and turning into new things so we can keep the recycling up. So it's going to places like Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and India. It is being recycled, but not in China any longer.
I have a question over here.
So with landfills, I was just wondering, like, when you do fill up a landfill, are we able to use that land still, or is it like we have to close it off? Or like, and if the landfill goes up, are we able? Does it ever compress and like, is it ever able to be used again as like land?
Really
Great, so
question.
she's asking, I don't know if you can hear her, but she's asking can we do anything with landfills once we've used them? Is there anything useful to do with them?
Great question. So the best use that I can think of is what Jill was talking about with the landfill solar project. So they put all these mounts, like thousands of panels out on there. The problem is you can't penetrate the landfill. You can't make anything, you can't plant trees, you can't plant anything with roots. You have to mow it constantly because you don't want anything to penetrate the layers so that all that stuff comes out. It doesn't really compress, especially what we call an ash fill or our landfill, where we just put ash in there, because it's in its final state. It's kind of like sand on a beach. There's nowhere for it to get smaller. And even in a whole trash landfill, it might go from like this to like this, but that's barely anything. Because nothing is decomposing in a regular landfill. There's no air, there's no light, there's no good bacteria, so nothing is decomposing like you would think compost decomposes into soil. So it's what?
It just kind of like sits.
It stays. And actually a whole trash landfill is creating methane all the time too, which is one of the greenhouse gases, which is really messing up the environment. So that's another reason why we choose to burn, by the way, because we don't want to create that methane. I know that question was asked earlier. But in general, no, there's not a lot you can do with it, unless you want to put solar panels on it, or make it into a park or things, but they're limited uses because of the danger of penetrating.
And actually, because we couldn't penetrate the landfills, we have to actually pour like concrete blocks and put the racking system in that way. Normally, we would just drill into the ground, but for the landfills, we can't do that. So.
We have a question here and then behind you. Yeah, go ahead.
If on the website it's saying you're not supposed to recycle plastic bags, but you can recycle shredded paper, why do you want to put shredded paper in a plastic bag?
Fantastic question. So we don't want plastic bags, we don't want plastic bags, we don't want plastic bags unless it's a clear plastic bag with shredded paper in it. Imagine if you at home, you like to shred your junk mail, you like to shred, any sensitive documents your family does. If you put that shredded paper straight into the recycling bin, and then the truck picks it up, and then it's in the truck loose, and then the truck dumps it off, and now it's on the floor loose, and then the front loader puts it up onto the upper level, and then it goes through the machines, it's confetti. It's going everywhere. So if it's in a clear or clear-ish plastic bag that we can see through, it'll go up and over with the cardboard when it's sorted, or it will fall through with the paper, and either way, someone is grabbing it out, they see it and say, ooh, shredded paper. They bring it over, they empty it out in the paper bales, on the paper belt on its way to become a paper bale. So if you put it in there loose, it goes everywhere, it does not get recycled. If you put it in a clear plastic bag, we can see it, we pull it out. If you put it in a black trash bag or black or dark anything, it's being pulled out as trash. So yeah.
So for food waste in the city, how I was talking about, you can get one of the bins and collect the food waste at home. You can actually use your plastic produce bags that you might buy apples or broccoli in at the grocery store and put your food waste in that plastic bag as a way to contain the ick factor of it, and just drop it off in a clear plastic bag at the disposal site, because where we take all this food waste up to Exeter, Maine, they have a depactor so they can separate that plastic bag from the food waste. So it's another way to reuse. If you do start, generating a pile of plastic bags at home, that's a way that you can reuse it to contain the food waste that you're collecting from the city.
That I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
The shredder one.
Yeah. So no bags.
Just thanks for that question. I didn't realize that. Somebody with the Adidas hat on, did you have a question?
How deep is the landfill?
Great question. I don't know an exact number, but it's pretty deep. I would only assume that it's like the ceiling is where the land used to be, and then they dug down to the floor here. And then they lined it, and then they start piling stuff in. It might not be that deep. Honestly, you know what the water table is? The water table, water underground. So groundwater moving back and forth underground. You can't go below that. So you have to stay above the water table. So if the water table's here, we're up here, just making sure that we're not going down into the water table, because that would pollute or at least get in the way of that natural process.
Okay, we have, I see 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up. And I just want to say, thank you for all your questions. This has been the best group that we've had for questions. So thank you very, very much. Yes, go ahead.
Can you put paper or paper towels in the compost?
Definitely, yeah. So if you want to put your paper towels or napkins or even tissues anywhere, they have to go in the compost. They will not and cannot go in the recycling, because even though it says a paper towel, well, it's made of paper, I can recycle that. The fibers that make up a paper towel or a napkin are too short, because that's how they get really soft, right? You don't want to blow your nose with a piece of office paper. The fibers are really long that make up your regular paper, but they're really short with a piece of paper towel. So when you try and make that into something new, it's not going to turn into anything new, it's going to be mush. So you can compost it here in the cafeteria,
Yep.
at home, anywhere you like, but not in the recycling.
All right, yeah.
So what gas do you get in it?
What gases are emitted at your plant?
Great question. So we're creating a lot of pollution inside the building, because anytime you burn anything, we're creating pollution. So we are treating the nitrogen oxides, the mercury, the dioxins, the furans, and the sulfuric acids and other acidic gases. There's also particulates, which are tiny little things that are in the air. Like, think of a truck spitting out smoke. Those are made of particulates. So we're releasing a tiny bit of each of those. We do remember we're allowed to pollute this much, we're allowed to emit this much, but we're doing the bare minimum. So we could do this, we're staying well below those standards. So
What is the gas that you guys emit?
probably CO2. We are emitting CO2, but it's way better than cars driving down the road. We like to say that the air up there that we're emitting is as clean or cleaner than the air on top of Mount Katahdin.
All right, did you have a question? Yeah, this is the last question. Go ahead.
If you don't, because my neighbors have compost, it's the trash can be recycled. If you don't have one of those, what do you put your compost?
Yeah, so we were just talking about, she's asking if you don't have the buckets for the compost, you mean? So we're trying to get together with Lucy and create maybe an area in the high school where high school kids could come get the buckets and bring them home. So what's your name, if you don't mind?
Leona?
If you want to come talk to me after break, we can figure out a way to do that, okay?
I would also, can I add one more
Yeah.
point? If you're interested, what you should do, they have them at the municipal service facility, which is on Highland Ave. You can go pick one up with your parents or by yourself and bring it back home. They have the 12-gallon bin and also a 1-gallon countertop bin. So they're available to any resident in the city. So if it's something you're interested in, just go pick one up at no cost. If you don't want to do it that way, you can always build something in your backyard and just do it on your own too.
Or come find me and we'll figure it out after break. Okay. All right, let's have a round of applause. Thank you, guys. All right, I think we have 2 more minutes till the bell rings. So teachers, will you stay until the bell rings, you think? Yep. Or if you're bringing your class back, your teacher will let you know. Thank you.